I'm beating myself up again.
Yeah.
I hate myself for beating myself up.
A warm welcome to you all. Today's video is all about the 5 tips you can take to level up your weight loss. I'm JJ, I'm a life coach, and I eat mostly meat.
I'm Eric, I'm a novelist, and I eat mostly meat too.
We have been getting some comments from our viewers around weight loss stalls.
Yes, and sometimes we'll get a comment that someone's been doing carnivore for 3 months or even longer, and they're not seeing the results maybe they saw in our video about our own transformation. I always look at JJ and I say, I bet you it's happening and it's body recomp and it's not showing up on the scale.
Muscle weighs more than fat. Maybe you've heard that before. And so what can happen is your scale can say there is absolutely no weight loss, and yet your body can be transforming. You can be losing inches in your waist, in your arms, all over the place. Your clothes can be fitting better. And I know that I experienced this myself because I went about 7 months before I lost any weight. And my clothes were definitely fitting better.
Well, that's a big sign.
Yeah, I was definitely seeing a change in my body.
So if you're plateaued, it's always better to measure your waist, not your weight. That means get a tape measure out. What do you call those? Measuring?
It's a tape measure.
It's a tape measure, but it's not one of those Stanley ones that I use.
It's like a tailor's, some people call it a tailor's tape.
A tailor's tape, because I'm thinking like my Milwaukee tape. And I'm like, that's crinkly. That would be cold too on my skin.
It's not going to work.
So you'd measure your waist, and then in another month, take new measurements. And of course, you can weigh yourself, and you may be surprised that the measurements change a lot quicker than the weight on the scale.
I've also heard the concept of having a pair of honesty pants, some that are a little bit snug, not stretchy. You don't want to wear your stretchy jeans. I know I gave up my stretchy jeans about a year ago, and one of my friends was appalled. No, you want something that doesn't stretch, and just to be able to see how it's fitting you there.
Okay.
Without the stretch.
That makes total sense to me.
And that would be an honesty pair of pants. Not to make you feel bad. You aren't pulling out the ones that don't fit. Let's be clear about that. But it's the ones that are honestly giving you a good sign of whether you're having that body recomposition.
That's right, because your jeans don't care what you weigh.
No, they don't. So tip number 2 is super important. Don't skip this.
Listen.
Listen. I am a professional life coach and have been for 15 years. Listen. We know when the scale isn't doing what we want it to, when we're not getting the results in anything, we start to beat ourselves up. We make excuses, we get a slippery slope going, and we just feel defeated and down and out. And that does not help anything. That doesn't help your stress levels, your cortisol. It does not help your mindset. So this next tip is about staying mentally strong. I am a certified fearless living master coach, and I have a special tool.
Oh, okay.
One of my favorites. It's called the RISK formula. It's an acronym. Anytime we set up to make a change, to change ourselves for the better, to shift our habits, we have a survival portion of our brain that shouts, alarm, alarm. Your brain is actually designed to sort of self-sabotage you. So RISK is an acronym. The first letter R is release attachment to the outcome. And this sounds crazy. But if you have this desperate energy about wanting that scale to budge, it's not good for you. And again, not good for your hormones either. Not good for your weight loss, not good for your mental state. So you want to do something that can help you release that desperate energy. It might be a breathing exercise, going for a walk, exercising, anything to get rid of that attachment to the outcome, attachment to the results. The next letter is an I. It's invest in your intention. Now, many people use the word intention interchangeably with a goal. So, well, yeah, I'm going to double down on losing 10 pounds. That's not what I mean here. In fearless living, the intention is really about who you want to be, who you are becoming, who are you blossoming into. And I know that sounds a little girly for you probably.
A little feminine.
Do you want to be healthier, more vital, more confident? That is your intention that you double down on, not the scale results, but who you want to be as your best self. Invest in that. The S stands for stand for your truth. And that can mean a multiple of things, but in the carnivore diet, I really believe it's about knowing that this is the truth of being our proper human diet. Stay in that truth that this is how you can best nourish yourself with the least inflammation, least side effects.
Oh, and I have a tip for that.
Oh.
Remember a video many of you have not seen, binge berry to build belief.
Yes, that was one of the first ones.
Because that's what I did when I went carnivore. I basically said, I am not listening to anything other than things that tell me what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Because I needed to get my mind on track so I could stay on track.
That's a great tip. Getting that truth in you all the time. And then the final letter is K. Keep kindness a priority. And this is about kindness to yourself. So as you're moving through this process, acknowledge your wins, even the non-scale victory wins, especially the non-scale victory wins, and try to minimize the negative self-talk. When you notice negative self-talk, don't beat yourself up for beating yourself up, but just, right? That happens.
Oh, I'm beating myself up again.
Yeah.
I hate myself for beating myself up.
But shift your focus. Say a mantra, watch Dr. Barry, do something to shift that focus. So that is the risk formula to help you really stay mentally strong, and carnivore committed.
So I agree with all of this. But,
And
I agree with all of this, dear.
even better.
And I assume all of the men skipped this entire section as soon as it started. And that was a terrible mistake. But to stay mentally strong and stay on track for anything in life requires a decision. And so coming from the masculine energy, just do it.
So let's move on to the next tip.
This is extremely important, and we will talk about why it's important because there's many points, sub-points to this. So when we start with it, you're going to hear it, and if you're anything like me, you're going to be like, I don't want to hear it. But you need to hear it. If you're plateaued or you want to level up and go to the next level, log your food. And that means writing down what you eat.
I hate this.
So, but there's reasons for this, because if you do this, you will catch things and discover things that will allow you to take that responsibility and go to the next level.
Now, the first thing I want to talk about, one of the important reasons to log your food, is something that happens with many women, and that is undereating. You want to make sure that you are eating enough, I'm going to say calories just for the sake of saying it right now, enough calories, but enough energy to fuel your system, to fuel your metabolism so that you don't go into that starvation mode. So you have to make sure you are just
Until you're comfortably stuffed.
Until you're comfortably stuffed. Okay, now the next one too I'll take because this one was challenging for me at first. You also want to make sure you're not snacking. When you're doing carnivore, ideally, you want to be eating those meals till you're comfortably stuffed and not be snacking in between. And I have to tell you, when I started really paying attention to this, I was hitting up the cheese in the cashew jar a lot. This was pre-carnivore. I was still eating cashew. And so when I went carnivore, I kept wanting to hit that cashew jar. You've got to make sure your snacking is in check because every time you snack, you are raising your blood sugar and releasing insulin.
Yeah. You'd write that down because you're doing a food log. So if you walk past and you grab a handful of cashews, it goes in the food log. The other one is the sneaky carbs you're not confessing to. And that, for me, is mostly in barbecue sauce or ketchup that sneaks onto something. And those are full of sugar.
Heavy cream is a big one for people.
Heavy cream has sugar in it?
It has carbs, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't consume it that frequently. So.
I've heard. I don't either. But I think 1 tablespoon is 1 carb. Approximately 1 carb.
So if you go to Starbucks and you get a breve latte, you're getting probably, I don't know, maybe 10 carbs in that?
Maybe.
And that's, if you're carnivore, well, that's no good. But if you're keto, that's getting close to the threshold.
Yeah.
and you may not be realizing it. There's, all kinds of little sneaky carbs. Like I like my deer jerky, and it does have, each stick has a gram or two of carbs in it. So if I felt like I was plateaued, that would be an area I would obviously chuck that for a while to see if I would restart my progress.
You also want to pull the lever possibly on how much fat you're eating versus how much protein you're eating. And by logging this, you'll know where you are right now, how much are you having versus protein, and you can start making adjustments. Are you getting enough protein first? Enough.
You'd be surprised you're probably not getting enough fat.
Experiment at some point. Find your baseline through logging, and then say, okay, what happens if I up my fat ratio even more? What happens if I drop my fat ratio?
Although this ties in with our next one, which is fat bombs. Because I know a lot of people like to create fat bomb drinks. Although some people eat the butter, brown to butter things.
Bites, We've never
done that yet, but maybe I ought to try it. But it ties in with the other one, the artificial sweeteners. If you have artificial sweeteners with your fat bomb, you've now made something that's hyper palatable, and you may go right past that satiety threshold with that. I'm not an advocate of calories in, calories out, but there is a certain point at which you can overdo it, and people do. And so that would be one thing that you'd be tracking for sure.
Well, like beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, that type of a diet is self-limiting. You get to a point, I call it the gaggy bite, where you're done. So it's not really about how many calories, but yet there's a limiting factor there. And if it's hyper palatable, like that cheese spread I recently had in the fridge, you don't have that self-limiting point anymore.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I've actually found that with pork ribs, is when I do have the no sugar barbecue sauce, but it's got the sweetener in it, it will take me beyond the point of satiety, probably by one whole rib or maybe two, and then I'm done and I'm like, oh, I ate way too much. But you would write it in the log. And the other piece is, if you're doing a version of carnivore that does allow dairy, it may actually help you highlight some food intolerance issues you might end up having with dairy or with eggs or egg whites. So the food log would have the time of day, what you ate, and probably a little note area that you can write in, you know what, I felt a little bloated or a little icky, or I had brain fog following this meal. Amazing power in your hands by just writing a few sentences.
And this is not forever.
No.
Because we know a lot of us come to the carnivore lifestyle for freedom from tracking.
Yeah.
And freedom from the diet brain. Again, this is the strategy to use, though, if you are stalled or you want to level up your results. Take some time, do some tracking. The next tip, this one's what I've done. This is where I started. I just had my 2-year fastiversary.
Oh, wow. You haven't eaten for 2 years?
I haven't eaten for 2 years.
Holy
Can you
cow,
believe it?
no wonder your results are so amazing.
But at that time, my doctor recommended an eating window for me. And that's when I started clean fasting. So let me just, first of all, talk about the eating window. The eating window is the time of day in which you eat, or the hours per day which you can eat. You can start out with like an 8-hour window, and shrink it down to a 6-hour window, maybe even shrink it to a 4 or 2-hour window. This is what you get to play with. And during that window, you are able to eat. Now, let me put a caveat here, because if you have had some sort of a bariatric surgery, weight loss surgery, this might not be the tip for you, because you naturally cannot eat large amounts in one sitting and might have to have a longer eating window. During that eating window, you eat your meals without snacking, ideally. By shrinking it, you have some leverage. So my normal eating window is a 6-hour eating window. I eat 2 meals during that. If I'm super hungry some days, I will have a snack, but usually I try to avoid a snack altogether. If it's after Thanksgiving, I'm gonna do maybe a 4-hour eating window, or maybe a couple 2-hour eating windows. Or even more recently, after our travel and our holidays, I actually did a full 42-hour fast into an 8-hour eating window, because then I wanted to refeed. It's amazing how you can see the weight go down. I have just recently been experiencing a little weight loss. I've been plateaued for nearly a year. And by doing that longer fast of a 42 hours and then eating my 8-hour eating window, I've gone down a couple pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that wasn't even my intention around it, but I like it.
I don't do it regularly because I get really hungry in the morning and she wants to eat dinner. And so I do what she wants. I occasionally will just skip breakfast and have lunch, especially if I've indulged in something off plan the night before. It'd be very typical for me to just skip, just to give my gut a break. But I have not done it to break through a plateau because I don't feel like I've needed to yet.
No, you haven't.
But I'm not actively, I'm not really trying to push anything. I'm just doing a process right now and allowing my body to adapt and see where it goes, because I am taking vitamin P every day, force-fed down my throat, which is patience.
Well, as I was not losing weight for 7 months, that was it. And I kept focused on my other priorities of health and vitality.
We've got one more here.
We do.
And we've got something we want to share with you. So don't just skip.
No.
Hold on a second.
Don't skip. This is big. We've wanted to do this for a while.
But it's not this point. This point's important, but stick around.
So the final 5th point is to get your thyroid tested. Thyroid issues are a huge, huge problem right now, especially among women, although it can also happen to men. And you really need to find out if your thyroid is functioning optimally. Not normally. Normally is the average of all the sick people in the United States put together is normal. You want optimal function, and that means that you need to get a full, comprehensive thyroid panel.
So what would be in it, and how would they find out what was in it?
Well,
that gets us to our point.
What we have is the JJ and Eric's guide to level up your carnivore weight loss. And this, I know, but this is a full guide that goes through everything we've talked about today, including, the thyroid panel checklist.
What to ask for. Food log that you can print out and fill in. And because we're measuring your waist and not weight, there's a form in there you can print out and keep track of your measurements.
Yeah.
We are giving it away because all you have to do is follow the link in the show notes and it's yours.
So go ahead and we will get this to you right away.
Yep. And if you want to see how our weight loss adventure went, check out this video.